All right, if you like the Bose Quiet Comfort Ultra headphones, the flagship of Bose, well, they're releasing Gen 2, so an upgraded version. But newer isn't always better. Let me explain. So let me just walk through like 5 of the promised updates that's coming to Gen 2. The first 3 are all related to power and charging, which is a good thing because we've all faced some issues in that department. First one is the battery life is increased from 24 hours to 30 hours. Now, is that a big deal? I mean, if you're a power user, great, more hours is better. But we've never complained about the battery life on the Bose before. We have about the AirPods Max because those were like 20 hours. But when you get into 24 hours, anything above that, it's all good. But, 24 hours is great, especially in the case of Bose because we've tested their headphones in the past and they always underpromise but over-deliver. So we always got more battery life out of their headphones. And so I guess now they're trying to match the likes of Sony, by also promising 30 hours, which I guess makes sense. People are comparing these things on paper after all. And the biggest, I think, addition, which I personally like more than those additional 6 hours, is that they've included ability to use the headphones while they're charging, which wasn't the case in the past. So suppose you pull them out, they're dead, plug them in, and you can still use them on Bluetooth, listen to your audio, whatever. So that's a nice addition. The second one, and we're not the only ones who's faced this, right? So there are plenty of you guys in the comments mentioning this, is that the on-head detection for powering them on and off wasn't, as magical as they've promised it to be in Gen 1. So, removing them didn't always power them off immediately, or putting them back on didn't turn them back on. Especially, the last few times, I've been having to push that power button every single time. And that's not what you want when, there's this whole promise of automatic detection. Now, hopefully they've improved that. We're going to see if that's the case. And the last thing that they've improved in this department is a simpler disconnect method. And what they mean with that is if you remove the headphones and you lay them flat on a table, they will automatically turn off. I guess that's supposed to help, with the previous point as well, where they've had issues detecting if the headphones were off your head. So this way it helps. And guys, this reminds me, this is a throwback for me because it reminds me of the Jabra Elite 85H, if you guys know that one, where they had the twisty cups for turning them on and off. So twisting them one way would turn them off and twisting them the other way would turn them back on. So yeah, that was a little bit of a nostalgic moment when I read this. So the next 2 things are got to do with audio. Number 4 is USB-C audio. Not the case on Gen 1, right? You couldn't plug them in and use them wired via USB-C. You could use them wired through the 3.5 and 2.5 millimeter audio cable, but not through USB-C. Now that's a nice improvement. That means there's a DAC on board these headphones and you can probably get better lossless audio. Something to be tested as well. And there's a new immersive cinema mode added to the headphones. And this is a mode that the XM6 also has. So you see kind of where Bose is going here with trying to, be on par, trying to match the competition. Guess makes sense. So what this mode is for not only cinema, so when you're watching movies, but TV shows, but also podcasts and listening to audiobooks, because what they're basically doing is still giving you that wide sound stage, but then emphasizing dialogue and vocals a lot more. And this is a mode that is also coming to the Gen 2 version of their earbuds, the Ultra earbuds. And number 6, yes, we said 5, just rolls off the tongue better. But number 6 is better ActiveSense. And if you don't know ActiveSense, that's their proprietary technology for their active noise canceling, where they're able to detect peaks in sound and scoop them out for you. Now, Rowan had a nice experience where he was using the Gen 2 version of the earbuds and he was getting in and out of his car and he was slamming the door shut and it picked up that peak in sound and just scooped it out. So it's a much nicer experience for peaks in sound that happen all around you, right? Whether that's a car door slamming or the experience that I had was, shopping baskets at a supermarket being, thrown into a stack. So yeah, it's just a lot more pleasant experience and real quality of life improvement for noise canceling. So those are a couple of the improvements on paper that they're promising for Gen 2. Funnily enough, there was no news about a couple of things that we still hoped that Bose would improve. One of them being multipoint issues. I think that's one of the biggest things that people complain about, is that multipoint has so many hiccups. Yes, technically they're connected to two devices, but then what happens is that you play on one device, it pauses. You hit play again, it pauses. It just keeps doing this, and somehow there's this other device that holds this connection. And so what I've done, what many of you guys have done as well, is just turn off multipoint and use it as single point. But the advantage that Bose has is on the power button, if you click that, it can actually cycle through the connected devices and even read out the device that it's connected to. So because Bose has had that feature and has that feature, it kind of made it bearable. I mean, it is a compromise at the end of the day, but it made it bearable. But of course, the best solution is good multipoint. And so no news on that. So very curious how the Gen 2 will perform, whether it'll have the same issues. I mean, stay tuned. We will cover that as well. The other change is that the Bose Quiet Comfort Ultra were okay for calls. Nothing special. And not our highest recommendation for calls either. But if you've seen our latest video on Bose's Gen 2, Gen 1 on their Ultra earbuds, that video, we tested out in depth the speech clarity improvement that they've introduced via a firmware update. And that, guys, there was something there. They have definitely improved the calls. You could see that in the testing, but no mention on speech clarity for the headphones. So we reached out to Bose and we asked them, hey, what's the deal? Are we getting that on these cans or not? They said it's not there yet. They are planning to, but there's no timeline confirmed. So we'll have to wait on that. And so we don't also know if Bose is going to do the same thing that they did with the Buds and release speech clarity for the Gen 1 version of the Ultra headphones. So yeah, wait and see, but we can't guarantee that until Bose officially releases it. So yeah, stay tuned. A couple of facts to know. So we reached out to Bose and we asked them, are you guys going to do the same thing as you did with the Buds in terms of availability? Are the Gen 2 version of these cans going to replace Gen 1 on the market? They said yes. That is what their plan is. They're going to slowly phase out Gen 1. All right, so a couple of facts. When is this coming? So if you're in the UK or in the EU, it's coming on September 10th. If you're in the US, you're going to have to wait a little longer. That's October 2nd. Pricing-wise, it's $450, but Gen 1 is going to be discounted. We don't know the USD price, but for the Great British pounds, it's going to be $350, which is $100 or £100 less, which is a considerable difference, guys. We were expecting something to be like around $50 or so, but it's $100 difference for a Gen 2 version with a couple of improvements. Colors-wise, initially, we're getting black, white smoke, driftwood sand, and midnight violet. But as we know from Bose, they release these headphones in a ton of colors. And so I think they're going to slowly roll out more, but we don't know, of course. But these are the 4 colors that you're getting initially, which is quite a few options to choose from. We are getting the headphones. They've been shipped over. We're going to get them any day now. So what is it that you want to know about these headphones? And like we said at the top of this video, maybe newer isn't better. The $100 or pound difference is a big difference. And so we will test out Gen 1 and Gen 2 and see if, you should be spending that extra 100 or whether you should be upgrading if you have the Gen 1 already. So stay tuned for that. A big thanks to our YouTube members and patrons on these tested tier, as well as our highest tier, which is the Fuckman tier. A big thanks to Rachel, Paula, and Rad's Panda. Maybe you should check out the video I just referred to about the QC Ultra earbuds Gen 1 versus Gen 2, linked up here, and this other video that YouTube thinks you might be interested in. Doei!